Mind is the arbiter of life, it is the creator and shaper of conditions, and the recipient of its own results. It contains within itself both the power to create illusion and to perceive reality. Mind is the infallible weaver of destiny, thought as the thread, good and evil deeds are the warp and woof, or foundation, and the web woven upon the loom of life is character. Mind clothes itself in garments of its own making. Man is a mental being, he possesses all the powers of mind and is furnished with unlimited choice. He learns by experience, and he can accelerate or hinder his experience. He is not arbitrarily bound at any point, but he has bound himself at many points, and having bound himself, he can, when he chooses, liberate himself. He can become bestial or pure, ignorant or noble, foolish or wise, just as he chooses. He can, by recurring practice, form habits, and he can, by renewed effort, break them off. He can surround himself with illusions until truth is completely lost, and he can destroy each of those illusions until truth is entirely recovered. His possibilities are endless, his freedom is complete. It is the nature of the mind to create its own conditions and to choose the states in which it shall dwell. It also has the power to alter any condition, to abandon any state. This it is continually doing as it gathers knowledge of state after state by repeated choice and exhaustive experience. Inward processes of thought make up the sum of character and life. Man can modify and alter these processes by bringing will and effort to bear upon them. The bonds of habit, impotence, and sin are self-made and can only be destroyed by oneself. They exist nowhere but in one's mind, and although they are directly related to outward things, they have no real existence in those things. The outer is molded and animated by the inner, and never the inner by the outer. Temptation does not arise in the outer object, but in the lust of the mind for that object. Nor do sorrow and suffering belong by nature to the external things and happenings of life, but in an undisciplined attitude of mind toward those things and happenings. The mind that is disciplined by purity and fortified by wisdom avoids all those lusts and desires which are inseparably bound up with affliction, and so arrives at enlightenment and peace. To condemn others as evil and to curse outside conditions as the source of evil increases and does not lessen the world's suffering and unrest. The outer is but the shadow and effect of the inner, and when the heart is pure, all outward things are pure. All growth and life are from within outward, all decay and death are from without inward. This is the universal law. All evolution proceeds from within, all adjustment must take place within. He who ceases to strive against others and employs his powers in the transformation, regeneration, and development of his own mind conserves his energies, preserves himself, and as he succeeds in harmonizing his own mind, he leads others by consideration and charity into a like blessed state. The way of enlightenment and peace is not gained by assuming authority and guidance over other minds, but by exercising lawful authority over one's own mind and by guiding oneself in pathways of steadfast and lofty virtue. A man's life proceeds from his heart and his mind, he has compounded that mind by his own thoughts and deeds. It is within his power to refashion that mind by his choice of thought. In this manner, he can transform his life. Let us see how this is to be done. Every established mental condition is an acquired habit, and it has become such by continuous repetition of thought. Despondency and cheerfulness, anger and calmness, covetousness and generosity, indeed, all states of mind, are habits built up by choice until they have become automatic. A thought constantly repeated at last becomes a fixed habit of the mind, and from such habits proceeds one's life. It is in the nature of the mind to acquire knowledge by the repetition of its experiences. A thought which is very difficult at first to hold and dwell upon at last becomes, by constantly being held in the mind, a natural and habitual practice. A boy, when commencing to learn a trade, cannot even handle his tools right, much less use them correctly. But after long repetition and practice, he plies them with perfect ease and consummate skill. Likewise, a state of mind at first apparently incapable of realization is, by perseverance and practice, at last acquired and built into the character as a natural and spontaneous condition. In this power of the mind to form and reform its habits, its conditions, is contained the basis of a man's salvation. It is the open door to perfect liberty by the mastery of self. For as a man has the power to form harmful habits, so he equally has the same power to create habits that are essentially good. And here we come to a point which needs some clarifying and which calls for deep and earnest thought on the part of my listener. It is commonly said to be easier to do wrong than right, to sin than to be holy. Such a condition has come to be regarded almost universally as a self-evident truth. No less a teacher than the Buddha has said, "Bad deeds and deeds hurtful to ourselves are easy to do. What is beneficial and good, that is very difficult to do." And with regards to humanity generally, this is true, but it is only true as a passing experience, a fleeting factor in human evolution. It is not a fixed condition of things, it is not the nature of an eternal truth. It is easier for men to do wrong than right because of the prevalence of ignorance, because the true nature of things and the essence and meaning of life are not understood. When a child is learning to write, it is extremely easy to hold the pen wrongly and to form his letters incorrectly. But it is painfully difficult to hold the pen and to write properly. This is because of the child's ignorance of the art of writing, which can only be dispelled by persistent effort and practice, until at last, it becomes natural and easy to hold the pen correctly in difficult, as well as altogether unnecessary, to do the wrong thing. It is the same in the vital things of mind and life. To think and do rightly requires much practice and renewed effort, but the time comes at last when it becomes habitual and easy to think and do rightly, and difficult, as it is then seen to be altogether unnecessary, to do that which is wrong. Just as an artisan becomes, by practice, accomplished in his craft, so you can become, by practice, accomplished in goodness. It is entirely a matter of forming new habits of thought. And he to whom right thoughts have become easy and natural, and wrong thoughts and acts difficult to do, has attained to the highest virtue, to pure spiritual knowledge. It is easy and natural for men to sin because they are formed by incessant repetition harmful and unenlightened habits of thought. It is very difficult for the thief to refrain from stealing when the opportunity occurs because he has lived so long in covetous and greedy thoughts. But such difficulty does not exist for the honest man who has lived so long with upright and honest thoughts. He has thereby become so enlightened as to the wrong, folly, and fruitlessness of theft that even the remotest idea of stealing does not enter his mind. The sin of theft is a very extreme one, and I have introduced it in order to more clearly illustrate the force and formation of habit, but all sins and virtues are formed in the same way. Anger and impatience are natural and easy to thousands of people because they are constantly repeating angry and impatient thoughts and acts, and with each repetition, the habit is more firmly established and more deeply rooted. Calmness and patience can become habitual in the same way, by first grasping through effort a calm and patient thought, and then continuously thinking it and living in it until it becomes second nature, and anger and impatience pass away forever. It is in this manner that every wrong thought may be expelled from the mind, that every untrue act may be destroyed, that every sin may be overcome. Let a man realize that his life in its entirety proceeds from his mind. Let him realize that the mind is a combination of habits which he can, by patient effort, modify to any extent and over which he can thus gain complete ascendancy, mastery, and control. Once he will have obtained possession of the key which shall open the door to his complete emancipation. But freedom from the ills of life, which are the ills of one's mind, is a matter of steady growth from within, and not a sudden acquisition from without. Hourly and daily must the mind be trained to think stainless thoughts and adopt right and dispassionate attitudes under those circumstances in which it is prone to fall into wrong and passion. Like the patient sculptor upon his marble, the aspirant to the right life must gradually work upon the crude material of his mind until he has wrought out of it the ideal of his holiest dreams. I hope you like this video. Subscribe for more such videos. Thanks for watching.